To John's Long Box. I'm doing my live chat as promised. I just went live. As soon as anybody shows up, let me know if the sound is good, let me know if the picture's good, and we're off to the races. Alright, until people show up, I'm just going to treat this like a regular video and hope that people do show up. Alright, so I don't know, I'm on a Legion of Superheroes kick, and I thought I'd check out Legion 89. This is DC Comics, the new format. This is obviously 1989, and this is by Geffen, Grant, Kitson, and DeCarlo. What's the big deal with this? This is the Legion of Superheroes was a big deal at this point. It was a best-selling comic, so the inevitable spinoff happened. And this is, I forget what Legion stands for. It's probably in the book, but this was set in the current year. The current year was 1989. So this was, hey, the day has come. Okay, cool. War Duke, thank you. Sound is okay. The video's okay. Just let me know. I'm just gonna filibuster with talking about comics until people start asking questions, or I don't know. I don't know what to do. Sounds good. Thank you, War Duke. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. Would have been pretty embarrassing if it was here's a live chat, just me in the corner by myself. All right, the future is now. I just like I said, the Legion superheroes could do no wrong at this point in comic book history. And Jeanette Kahn. What do we got there? DC. Let's look at what's coming out at this point. We got Action Comics. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Action Comics at one point went weekly, and every issue had like a different creative team to help it come out every week. And I thought the quality just plunged. I think they were trying to experiment with weekly comics, and I just don't think it didn't work. The quality really went down. The Doom Patrol 19. Oh wow! This is the first issue of Grant Morrison, Grant Morrison and Richard Case. Richard Case was already drawing it, and then Grant Morrison took over as the writer. A new direction and a new format mean big changes. And this was before Vertigo. It folded into Vertigo later on. Wow, I didn't realize. So this comic came out. That Doom Patrol, that Grant Morrison Doom Patrol, really meant a lot to me. It was a big deal in my life. It introduced me to it got me to I was kind of like a lost kid at that point. My friends were moving away. You know, the old team was breaking up. People were going to college. People were moving. I feel a sneeze coming on. Oh God. And I guess we all go through that like little like Stand By Me, like growing up. You don't want to grow up kind of thing. And he started doing like beat poetry and everything, and it got me really interested in like Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg and all those guys. It was just like something I needed at the moment. I completely credit Doom Patrol, Grant Morrison, as what got me inspired to read all this on the road stuff, which got me to move across the country. It all started because of Doom Patrol 19, a very influential comic book in my life. I should showcase that. I did showcase that. What am I talking about? I did like over 400 showcases, so I kind of forget what I did every once in a while. But I'll revisit that. Sandman. Yes, this is Grant Morrison. Sam, look at this run of comics. The Unknown Soldier, I got that too, but I don't really remember too well. The Animal Man, the Invasion Aftermath. This was another Grant comic. So I started collecting Animal Man just out of whim, and I think that's where I first found out about Grant Morrison. And then I was already collecting the Doom Patrol just because I was interested in the. Pretty much at this point, I was full on DC, just trying to collect everything that came out, except for Gamma Marauders. I did not get Gamma Marauders. I see there's a couple of people in the chat. Help me out here. Ask questions, say something. Okay, we got Swamp Thing 83. Oh, I remember this. Enemy Ace, Power of the Atom. Yeah, that was mid. This is Starman. Okay, this is not the Starman of the '90s, written by why can't I think of the guy's name? Robinson. This was a short run, but it's still pretty good. A solid superhero story. But it was the Starman with the white costume with the big star in his chest. Adventures of Superman 451. Yes, okay. New Titans. Yes, so who was Wonder Girl? They kept revisiting that. Who was Wonder Girl? Who was Donna Troy? And Wonder Girl? It just seemed that they retconned her more than anybody else. And the Shadow number 20. At last, the Shadow is back, and he's out to get the rock star who stole his ring. This was the. I always knew about the Shadow. My father loved the Shadow, and we used to talk about it, and we would listen to some radio shows and, on like cassette tapes, something like that. But that was like a running joke, my father and I, when I was a wee little kid. Whenever we went to a funeral and they would have a book that you signed, my father would have me sign Lamont Cranston. So, so I still do that to this day. What a jerk I am! I'll go to a funeral for like an aunt or an uncle or a friend's family, and I'll sign the book. I'll sign my name, and then under it, I always put Lamont Cranston. That's the Shadow Secret Identity. But this one seemed a lot of people hated this one. This one was but then again, I never collected a Shadow comic book before this, and then I got this, and then from that I got some Mike Kaluta stuff, and I could see why people who had a history of the Shadow would not like that series. Yeah, that would be hypocritical for me because I'm an old timer now, and seeing some of my favorite comic book stuff getting the continuity disregarded and just changed, and I'm getting annoyed. So I can understand and respect why people didn't like that. All right. So all right, we got 4 people. Cool. So here we got Homecoming, and they're trying to make well, it's the same artist as the Legion of Superheroes, but the inking is keeping it looking like the Legion of Superheroes. Just the technology of the ships. I always loved the way Keith Giffen drew these ships. They just look like, I don't know. They tread that superhero and science fiction line just really well. Let's look at the credits. We got Keith Giffen, plot and breakdowns. Breakdowns means basically a storyboard. Okay, so so Keith Giffen's coming up with the idea, telling Alan Grant the basic gist, and then he goes, here's his gist. So he's probably has like a couple of pages with like doodles on it, and Alan Grant takes that and turns it into a full-fledged script, and Barry Kitson takes those doodles and turns them into like a real art, and then Mike DiCarlo, who I think is a great inker, will finish him off. So I guess that's why Keith Giffen had time to do 2 comics. Colorist Gaspar Laverne Kinzerinsky, colorist Art Young, assistant editor Karen Berger. And let's look at, we already know this is 1989, but that's the main reason why I look at the indicia, because it's Legion 18. It's just one of the few comics that every year changed its name. I think it made it up to Legion 91 before it finally was canceled. Why can't I find the year? Yeah, 1989 DC. We already do that though. Just pretty cool. And this was Vril Dox. He was like the first, he was retconned into Brainiac, and then his descendants, Brainiac 1, Brainiac 2, and Brainiac 3, all the way up to Brainiac 5. So I guess the Coluans have long lifespans. And they're super geniuses. And what I like about him is he's a borderline supervillain. He's like untempered by morality, so he will do the most logical and easiest, not easiest, but like, this is the logical, this will solve a problem, let's do it. And like, who cares about the collateral damage? The needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, kind of thing. He's very like I said, borderline supervillain. I don't know. War Duke is asking, was he morphed into the robot version of Brainiac? No. And he was his own character. He came from the planet Kalu, and he started Legion 89, and as you can see in this comic, I'm not going to read you the comic, but they're almost like mercenaries. So what happened? There was like a breakdown of law and order, and he thought the most like logical thing to do would be to like solve the problem in his own fashion. Him being the smartest being and him being egotistical and arrogant, he recruits like a team of like basically mercenaries, and they're going around and they're solving space crimes, but they don't. It's not like they follow a code of laws or a constitution or anything. They're just doing it on what makes the most profit and what makes the what does it the most efficient. And so, like I said, he's borderline villain, and then they have like the other team members that are acting as his consciousness to rein him in from going full on bad guy. But keep in mind, he still thinks he's a good. But then again, most bad guys think they're a good guy, and I think he would become a bad guy if it wasn't for everybody else. Now, was he morphed from the robot version of Superman? That's a hard question to answer, because it seems like every 6 months they change the original Brainiac, right? He was supposed to be like a space alien collector at one point, and then he was a human at one point, and then he was a computer system that controlled all of the systems of Krypton to kind of like an Alexa for the entire planet. And then I don't know what happened. That's DC. DC's always been a little fast and loose with their continuity, and it seems like every 20 years or so they'll have like a crisis and reboot everything. But even within that 20 years, they'll have like little soft reboots, and Brainiac was one of those people that just got rebooted all the time. So I honestly can't answer that question. I don't know. He must have some sort of connection with the villain Brainiac, but I just don't know. Did these people make the Brainiac robot and it went over to Krypton? I don't even know anymore. So what are they doing? They're crash landing on this planet. This is like the same race as Block. She's what is her? I forget her race. She's the same race as Shadow Girl. So it's like the Legion, analogs for the Legion, but in modern day times. They meet Supergirl, and then she goes to the. They kind of retcon the Legion superheroes, and they're another team that, oh my God, did the Legion superheroes just suffer? One of the things I did like was they had the Legion of Three Worlds, and it was like three different versions of like in continuity versions of the Legion of superheroes. And the classic version that I just showcased yesterday, I like the way they worked it out. That was the Legion from Earth 2, because it makes sense because they knew Superboy and Supergirl and everything like that. Then when they redid the Legion, that was the Legion from Earth 1, and then there was the Legion of Earth, another one which was like post 0 hour or something like that, and they all met each other and they had different origins, and that's kind of when I stopped reading DC. So I don't know what's going on or what happened after that. And I saw a tweet the other day. I have to be on Twitter I try to promote this channel on Twitter, so I read a lot of comic book Twitter. Of all people, what's her name, Gail Simone, who is just insufferable. She tweeted something about the Legion of Superheroes, and then she followed up her tweet with like, leave the poor Legion of Superhero fans alone, they suffered enough in the past 5 years. So does anybody know what she meant by that? I mean, I know that no comic has had its history pulled out from under them like the Legion of Superheroes, like in the past 20 years. Oh my God, they rebooted it so many times. And even when I was collecting it, they did that 5 years, that 5 years later, and it was like I think they got tired of like the Children Legion, and then they canceled it, and then they started again, and it was supposed to be 5 years later, and this guy hated that guy, and that guy hated this guy. They did the same thing with like Parks and Recreation. If you watch that TV show, the last season was like a couple of years in the future, and you can hear my cat crying, and and I that kind of like. I don't want to say it killed it, because I still collected it after that, but it changed it. And one thing I've learned is when things are going great, things are going well, don't change it. Change the comics when they're not doing well. I mean, and yes, you see they're being imprisoned by the other Kaluans, and he's talking about his origin. He was, experimented on, and he became even more super intelligent. Blah blah blah. And he's borderline sociopathic, but he's still trying to do the right thing. There you go. This, I know. What do you guys think of this art? Oh, look at this, the Blackhawks. I forgot about this. My father liked the Blackhawks. Every once in a while, he would ask me if the Blackhawks were still in production. I remember the first couple times he asked me, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Then they came back. And I just think that these guys work best in a World War II setting. They're World War II air fighters, like an Air Force. But they're like a mercenary. Are they mercenary? I don't even know if they're mercenary. But they're kind of like a paramilitary. As I take a sip of coffee. And I think they work best in that setting. They tried to bring them back. And I just don't think they were. Looks like an interesting series, present day setting. Are you talking about the Blackhawks, or are you talking about Legion 89? Because Legion 89 was present day, because this came out in 1989. And then it became Legion, the Blackhawks. This was World War II. They just brought them back. Yeah, Martin Pasco. Let me talk about Martin Pasco when I'm done talking about this. But they brought them back in like a limited series, suggested for mature readers. And then they tried to bring them back in like a modern series. They were like mercenaries, and it just didn't work out. I think this is like a concept that works best in World War II. Martin Pasco. I first became aware of Martin Pasco. He had the unfortunate luck to write Swamp Thing right before Alan Moore. So in the original Swamp Thing, it was Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson. I'm working from memory, and I didn't expect to talk about this, but it was Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson. Oh my God, how can you not love that? And then that went like 22, 24 issues, and it got canceled. Then they brought back the Saga of the Swamp Thing, #1, written by Martin Pasco, and I can't remember who the original artist was on that series. And that was phenomenal. That was great. And I don't know why Martin Pasco left. I don't know if he was done, if he told the stories, or they fired him to get Alan Moore. But then Alan Moore took over, and boom, we all know the phenomenon that happened after that. That was how I learned about Alan Moore. Oh my God, that's Saga of the Swamp Thing 19. That was one of the first comic books that I remember. It was like, at the time, it was like $100 in back issue stores and comic book stores because of the writer, not because of the art. At that point, it was always the writer that sold back issues. But anyway, poor Martin Pasco. He did. If you can get, I don't know if they're cheap, because I bought them when they came out, so I don't know the price as I knock everything around. Poor Martin Pasco. He wrote a really solid, really good Swamp Thing. And I don't know what it is about the character of Swamp Thing, but he brings out the best in writers. Ooh, man. So back to the Legion over here. So now he's breaking out of the prison, and he's taking all these other prisoners with him, and they're going to form a paramilitary organization to work on, to solve problems and crimes. But they're going to get paid for it. I love this bug. Doesn't that bug look like drawn by John Byrne? That kind of reminds me of the Shi'ar ships from those classic X-Men. Look at this. Look at the detailing. Very Frank Miller. Doesn't that remind you of Ronin? That is so cool. That is so cool. I don't know. Comic books are so great. Don't you just love comics? They're amazing. I kind of forget what's going on because I started talking so much about other things, and I kind of lost track. Oh, the Phantom. 80s art is fabulous. I have to agree, War Duke. I have to agree. I mean, that's why I'm here, right? That's why we're all here, all 6 of us. So the law of the jungle doesn't apply to the 20th century. Here's a pulp hero, and I know nothing about the Phantom. I like the Billy Zane movie. I think it was a shame that it kind of got overlooked. Billy Zane obviously was having fun. If you rewatch that, it's not that bad. It's definitely better than the Alec Baldwin Shadow. Oh my God, that was painful to watch. But then again, I don't really like Alec Baldwin. He just gets on my nerves. But comics are awesome. Yes, Jeff. Thumbs up for Jeff. Oh, you want to see something? Look at my hand. That's not dirt. I was unloading a truck yesterday, and the truck was the loading area was up to my shoulders. So I'm standing at the. Yeah, I know. Ouch is right. Yeah, I'm okay. But I can't really move my thumb. So this hand's holding my phone. So if I drop it or anything, you guys understand why. But I was unloading the truck weights off. I'm gonna let tapes off. We're unloading, EM. And the truck driver. We normally get this one guy. I like the guy. He's such a good guy. He's always joking. He's always laughing. And he's just a good expediter, a good truck driver. And when we unload stuff, he places it into your hand. Perfect, because these freaking things are heavy. So it's me and my partner Mark are unloading the truck. So this new truck driver, he picked up the pipes and then dropped them into my hand. Now keep in mind, I'm extending my arms up over my head because that's how tall the truck is. So he drops this bundle of pipes, which just, I don't have the strength to catch them in, and I just crushed my hand in between that bundle and the bundle that was next to be picked up. Oh my God, I saw stars. My partner said, "Are you all right?" And I went, "Yep," because you get embarrassed when you get hurt, And then when you first get hurt, you don't realize how bad it hurts. It takes like a minute or two before. So we unloaded the truck, and I'm like, "Yeah, I think I messed up my hand." It wasn't that swollen, but it just hurt. And then I woke up this morning. And the first thing I did was I showed my wife, and her being an office worker, she's not used to like people getting hurt at work. So, but look how swollen it is. Look at that. That's all messed up. Just a comparison to my other hand. Never mind, my hands are permanently dirty, but you could see the difference. Yeah. So if I drop the phone, It's because my hand. Somebody just said something, and I missed it. Oh, you were talking. What did you say? I'm afraid to. Yeah, yeah, me too. Did the Phantom have a ring with Pal? I don't know. I don't know anything. I was talking about the Phantom, how little I know about him, other than that Billy's. I know he had a ring that when he would punch people, he would leave like a little mark of a skull, and that was like his calling card. That was big back in those pulp things. Yeah, and my hand's fine. I filled out an accident report just to cover myself because you never know. You never know. Like, so that's one of the things that we construction work, we try to be tough. You get hurt. You're like, I don't know if you fill out an actual report. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, oh my God, I'm all messed up. I got to go to the hospital. I got to get things. So you fill out an accident report just in case. And that's what I did. I filled out an actual report because I don't know if anything's ripped, torn, broken, or whatever. But it's fine. If I was left-handed, I would have been screwed. I wouldn't have been able to work today. But I'm right-handed. So yes, to get back to the fan, I'm sorry. I'm all over the place because I'm a little nervous about this. But anyway, all I know about a ring is that he had like a ring that like had like a skull on it. So when he punched people, he left like a skull mark. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. I'm Superman. Yeah, I'm more Santa Claus than Superman. Thank you, though. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was made out of steel pipes. These, whenever if you ever see a building and there's pipes going up the wall that carry electrical wire, that's what we are unloading. So this, if you saw my video yesterday when I talked about Chameleon Boy, he's a Duralian, and he kind of looks like the typical like antenna alien. Yeah, Greg, I got to agree with you. One of my comic book goals was to get every single copy of a Swamp Thing comic ever, and I completed that up to 2015. So from the very first appearance in the House of Mysteries, was it 83, to 2015, I have every Swamp Thing comic. And then once I was all caught up reading them, I was like, I kind of quit reading DC in 2015. But then I bought I continued. I got like the next run. I think it lasted like 19 issues. Hey, how'd you know that? Greg? How'd you know that, Greg? I'm being stalked. But I got the next series, the fifth edition, and it was really good. It was really, really good. So I think Swamp Thing so far has been escaping the modern comics curse. But look at this. So this is what some of the Duralians look like. This is definitely inspired. Had anybody ever? Oh, my mouth is all messed up. Has anybody read those Faft and Grey Mousers? The by Fritz Lieber fantasy books, and then they were big, because one of my early videos I showcased the deities and demigods, my hardcover Dungeons and Dragons book, where I talked about all the mythologies of the world and how that book really got me to expand my reading. What's the name again? Which name? What's the name again of what? But this is a Duralian, and in the Legion of Superheroes. Oh, the deities and demigods. It was a Dungeons and Dragons, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, 2nd edition, deities and demigods. In that book, they showcased all the world mythology, so the American Indians, Norse mythology, and I was obsessed with that book as a kid. And one of them they called the Nuhan mythology, and it was made up, because it was based on the works of Fritz Lieber, whose main characters were Faft and Grey Mouser, and Faft was a big barbarian, and Grey Mouser was a small thief, and they all had Faft would go to this mystic for advice, and it looked like this. It had like a hood with just stalks that came out, and at the end of each stalk was an eyeball. And a Grey Mouser would go to another one that just had like a face and like just blackness, or maybe the other way around. I forget which. So this is definitely inspired by that, if you ask me. I just think this is just a cool. I can't picture this as a good guy. I have a human bias, but doesn't that just look like a terrifying Cthulhu type alien? And so this is the backstory of them breaking out, like every heist movie, that they're forming the team, and she's smiling at him. They end up becoming a couple, and she uses her powers of darkness, and I love this. They're doing like a computer screen of schematics and blueprints. Being a construction guy, I kind of appreciate that, and then picking up the pieces. Boom! It blows up. And hello. Just somebody comment if I'm back. It looks like my internet just blacked out for a second or two. All right, this was the Huntress. This was after the Crisis on Infinite Earth. Yes, it's freezing up. Is it unbearable? Thanks, War Duke. So, for those of you who may know and those of you who may not know, the Huntress, the original Huntress was the son. The son, Jesus, what's wrong? I'm like worried about the internet. The original Huntress was the daughter of the original Batman and the original Catwoman from Earth 2. So they were the ones created in the 30s, and then sometime they fell in love. They got married, and when a husband and wife fall in love and get married, and they lay down in a bed, next thing you know, they have a little baby. And this was Helena Wayne. And Helena Wayne, she became like friends with Power Girl, the Earth 2 version of Supergirl, and I thought they were a cult classic team. Everybody liked them. Now, the Crisis on Infinite Earth happened, and I'm sure everybody here knows what that is, but for the sake of anybody who doesn't know, the Crisis on Infinite Earth happened in 1985, and it was DC Comics cleaning up their continuity. So what they did was they had some cosmic event with all the multiple Earths. I think that's funny because right now, geez, I just thought of this now. Right now, everything is multiverse. Everything is multiverse. Everything is multiverse. But at DC, they already had the multiverse, and then they thought it would be better to compress it all into one Earth. And one of the things that happened is all these overlapping heroes kind of folded into each other. So there was not two Batmans. There was only one Batman. And of course, it was the modern Batman because that's the one that's selling. So the original Batman didn't exist. So how do we explain the Huntress? Well, we gave her a new backstory. Same character, but a different backstory. Instead of being the daughter of the original Batman and Catwoman, she was the daughter of like a mafia boss, and she's Helena Bertoleschi or some Italian name, and she goes out and she's basically taken out the mafia because of like her parents got wasted or something like that, or making up for a life of crime. I don't know. Kind of took away her fire, if you ask me. People still like the Huntress. I still like the Huntress. Great costume. But and then one of the things I like about, she wore a cross and she was a Catholic, so she was like, I guess motivated by like guilt of her family's lifestyle, and now she's going to become a good guy. Justice League Europe, there's Power Girl. Elongated Man. To me, Elongated Man was the poster child of what was wrong with DC Comics. Keep in mind, I'm talking about before I read DC Comics, 1983 around. Prior to 1980, I wouldn't touch a DC comic unless somebody bought it for me and gave it to me. But after the Crisis Infinite Earth, I was all aboard. And but Elongated Man. And I remember when I was telling other people, DC Comics are good. They'd be like, yeah, Elongated Man. Well, what do you want me to do? Ralph Digby, the second greatest detective, and they never play up the fact that he's a detective. They always play up that he's a goof, but that would be kind of cool to have comics with him actually being a detective. That's the thing they never do about Batman anymore. Guys, when was the last time Batman was a detective and solved crimes? He's not supposed to be like Dark Ninja Man. I like it better when he's like a competent fighter who uses his head and like avoids fights. But yeah. I love the pre-crisis all-star comics from the 70s. Abrax, I have to agree with you. I kind of forget because I've done over 400 videos now. Did I showcase an all-star comics? I'm going to have to look through my back catalog. If not, I'm going to have to showcase one of those. I love those too. I agree with you. There's something about superheroes in World War II that I don't know what it is. It's just like chocolate and peanut butter. So this was... Yeah, see, Keith Giffen, he was all over the place. GM DeMatteis. And I think, all right, I don't know GM DeMatteis. He doesn't know me. Never met the guy, but I'm a big fan of his. He has a Kickstarter right now. $60 for like 4 surprise comics or something like that. I know it's kind of expensive for 4 comics, but that's the way things work with crowdfunded. I backed it, and I'm getting nothing for this. He doesn't know I exist. I just, on Twitter, he announced this thing, and then after I backed it, I went back to Twitter and said, yeah, I backed it. Thank you. I've always been a fan of yours. And he retweeted mine. Thank you. That was the extent of my interaction with a gentleman. But I've always been a fan of his. The first thing I remember reading and loving about GM DeMatteis was a Marvel graphic novel called Greenberg the Vampire. I should showcase that. I talk about that all. And it's about a vampire in a Jewish community. So to me, that was like eye-opening. I was a teenager, and I was like, well, there's no crosses, but they used like a Star of David because all that mattered was the faith, not so much the cross. It was the holy object that was the focus of the, repelling the vampires. I thought that was a good story. So Keith Giffen is kind of a goofball. When I said it in the other video, Keith Giffen, if he's unrestrained by an editor, to me he goes like a little off the rails, kind of like Steve Gerber. I also want to say in the Lady Alchemy comic, I said Steve Englehart created Howard the Duck when I meant to say Steve Gerber, but I have problems with my brain. So I said the wrong thing. Sometimes my mouth moves too fast, faster than my brain. So I just wanted to correct that. Every time I make a mistake, somebody angrily argues with me, and I'm not trying to argue. I'm just trying to have fun. So I try not to argue with people, and I think people want that argument online. And I don't know. Sometimes I do it, and then I regret myself. This is supposed to be about comic books. But anyway, back to Keith Giffen. I remember for the longest time, I was like, I can't stand Keith Giffen. I can't stand Keith Giffen. And then I look back at all the comic books that I love, and Keith Giffen's name is all over it. So, I guess I love Keith Giffen. But when he gets like a little too, like he had a comic called Vexed, and it was just like off the rails. And he did another comic that I can't remember. But, when he's worked with somebody, I think he's great. And then James D. Matisse, if he's by himself, it's kind of like spiritual and like trippy and really like off the rails, but in like a I don't know, like a exploration of like the nature of existence kind of way. I think he's a very like, for lack of a better term, a term I don't really like, but I can't think of anything. He's a very spiritual person. And then you put these two people together, and they make like such a solid comic. The original Justice League, this 80s 90s version of the Justice League, this was like printing money. Jeez. Bart Sears, I think this is one of the first things he did. This guy Bart Sears became a superstar, right? And Joe Rubenstein, this guy's a classic inker. He's been working for Marvel and DC. But first it was the Justice League of America, then the Justice League Europe, and then there was Justice League International, and then there was Justice League Extreme. And of course, like in the 90s, everything went this one goes to 11 if anybody gets that reference. So and I think, like everything, it just became too much. They couldn't handle the quality, and it all just imploded. There you go. The New Gods. I remember this. I said a few times that unfortunately, I never really got the Jack Kirby New Gods, because that came out in like 60 to like 73, I think, were the years. And at that point, not only was I not collecting comics, I was probably watching Sesame Street. I was too young for that, so I missed those. And it wasn't until like probably around 84 or something like that comic book stores became a thing. So those were out of my price range, and I wasn't interested because they were DC. Let's be honest. Nowadays, I'm super interested because not only are they good comics, but it's Jack Kirby. So I bought the omnibus. I have not read it yet. He did the Omega Man and stuff. Yes, he did. Yes, Omega Man, another comic that I love. Thank you for bringing that up. Omega Man is a comic I seem to be talking about. I showcased issue number 1, but Omega Man that walked the fine line between science fiction and superheroes. It was really good. And I joke around calling it the Game of Thrones of comics, meaning that people died. People died and stayed dead. Like every people would join the team, you start to like them, then they would die, and long-timers would die. Nobody was safe. And as far as I know, they never came back. So that made it exciting. So the New Gods, this was like the 3rd series. Paris Collins, I love Paris Collins' artwork. Look at that artwork. Mark Evanier, I know Mark Evanier from Gru the Wanderer. I'm a Gru freak. I love Gru the Wanderer, and from what I know about Mark Evanier, he I think I'm saying it right. Jack Kirby moved to California, and I think he moved to like the same town as Mark, and Mark was like, "Oh, Jack Kirby's here," and at that point, Jack Kirby was famous. You could just go knock on his door and be like, "I'm a big fan of Jack Kirby." And Rosalind and his wife were like, "Well, he's downstairs. You want to meet him?" And you go downstairs and you just sit in the basement, and he would talk to you while he was drawing. How cool is that? How cool is that, man? So Mark Evanier, could you blame him? He went and was hanging out with Jack Kirby. Little kid just hanging out in the basement talking to absolute legend. It'd be the equivalent of hanging out with, if you're into baseball and you're hanging out with Babe Ruth. You know what I mean? This is just unbelievable. And he started, Jack Kirby recommended him to write things and use his connection. Why not? And now he's a comic book writer. I don't know if he's still writing comic books. I haven't seen the name in a long time. Bob Lewis, I don't know much about. And Jim Starlin. Geez, we all know Jim Starlin. You know, if it wasn't for Jim Starlin, the Marvel Cinematic Universe wouldn't exist. He created Thanos. He created Gamora. And now Pip the Troll. And, well, he didn't create Adam Warlock. Jack Kirby and Stan Lee created him, but Jim Starlin turned him into Adam Warlock. So yeah, he created Adam Warlock because him was a dead character. And you know what? I wonder if that means he gets creator credits. I bet you he doesn't. I bet you Marvel will screw him out of Adam Warlock creator credits. So I don't know. This was a good series. I bought Jimmy Olsen's Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen 133 because that was the first Jack Kirby DC comic. That was the beginning of all this. 134 is kind of expensive because it's the first appearance of Darkseid. So that I'll be saving up to pick up. And I'm gonna just read them and I'm gonna buy them as they, once I'm done with number 134. If it tells me to go to New Gods, if there's an ad, I'll buy New Gods and I'm gonna try to read them as if they were coming out monthly. So I'll let you know about my progress about catching up with the New Gods because I'll be working my way from the beginning. Hero Hotline. This, believe it or not, was a comic that I actually really enjoyed. At the time, I picked up the number one because I had to pick up every number one at this point. And the premise of this was like it was superheroes that were like not good enough for like super teams or whatever. And what they would do is somebody got this idea. I forget who it was, but he got the idea of like a 1-800 number. You call this 1-800 number and a hero picks up the phone and he explained your problem and they'll send over the hero that's either available or the best person to help solve your problem. And I thought it was a cute idea. It was a novel idea. And at the time, like a rising tide floats all boats. DC and Marvel they were just printing money. Everybody, every comic was like, if a comic didn't sell 60,000 to 80,000 copies a month, it was canceled. Nowadays, that's a top seller. So bottom tier comics were selling what top of the line comics were selling today. And so they could afford to make Hero Hotline, little quirky little comics like this. I've never seen any of these characters out of this. So yeah, what's this? Cat's up a tree, ring down the drain, spouse beats you up. Just missed your train. Lux call 555 Hero. And it was Bob Rozakis, Steve DeFano, and Kurt Schlaffenberger. And they're the same team that did Amazing Man. Another little quirky little comic that I showcased, and I'm probably the only fan of. I loved it. Let me know in the comments, all seven of you, if anybody likes or heard of Amazing Man. I really like that. Lasted, 11 issues? Superman exiled in space. I remember this. Superman went out in space. And one of the things I appreciated is he had like a little air tank. And he said he probably didn't need it, but it was good to have just in case. And I kind of like that little touch of like Superman prepping, and just taking care of not Amazing Man, Amazing Man. Take away the A and put an apostrophe. Amazing Man. Yeah. If you heard of it, I would be amazed. You would have to be my age to even have a chance of knowing Amazing. It didn't last. It was a flash in the pan, but it was a cute little comic. It lasted 11 issues, and then they did 2 specials. But I didn't particularly like the specials because the art was different. I think they had a different inker. The Bullet Boys. There you go, the Bullet Boys. I've seen this ad 8 million times, and I could not. Well, it says one of their songs was Smooth Up. Did anybody know this song? Anybody know this band? I think no. All right, I was going to say, I think one of the guitarists used to be the guitarist from Minor Threat, but I'm thinking of a different band. Yeah, he got recruited and left Minor Threat and became like a 80s hair metal guitarist. All right, I think I'm done talking about Legion 89. I'm gonna try. If I was a smarter person, I would have taken this out of the bag already. But I'll check out Captain Atom #1. So I'm gonna try to. Yeah, I just got a little like warning that the internet let me know. I remember being weirded out seeing Kirby's art on the DC Fourth World stuff. Mr. Miracle was my favorite. I think Mr. Miracle was my favorite too at the time because he looked like a superhero, and everything else looked like semi-mythological stuff. And I like superheroes. The only I like Thor, but Thor was supposed to be a superhero version of a mythological character, and you're supposed to like, but but Jack Kirby was into mythology and space aliens and marrying all the ideas. Like, I appreciate that stuff now more as an adult, but at the time, I wanted superheroes. Like, you're gonna think this is weird, but I bought the Star Wars comics when they came out, but I didn't like them for a bunch of reasons. I didn't like them because comic books were superheroes. So when Star Wars came out as a comic book, I love Star Wars. Oh my God, did I love Star Wars? I played Star Wars. I got Star Wars toys. Man, when Star Wars came out, I was 9 years old, 1977. So Star Wars was made for me, and my friends. Oh my God! But I didn't like the comics because, first off, they look different. They colored Darth Vader green a couple of times, and I think Walt Simonson drew the comic before the movie even came out from scripts and descriptions. So of course it was different, and that bothered me because even back then I was a crazy person. But comic books were superheroes, not science fiction. Comic books were superheroes, not mythology. So the New Gods kind of like, you know, even if I saw the comics on the newsstand, I wouldn't have bought them because that's mythology, and comic books are for superheroes. That's weird, huh? Nowadays, I bring it up every once in a while. I should showcase some of my. Would you guys be interested if I showed off my role playing stuff, from my villains, vigilantes, and notes and maps of the universe that I created? Is it how many people would just turn that off in a heartbeat? But I don't know. If you're interested, let me know. Maybe I'll set that up. Definitely, War Duke is definitely interested. Thank you, War Duke. So, in my role playing game, mythology and superheroes and science fiction, it's all married into one. And alchemy, it's all one concept. So there you go. I've evolved into appreciating Jack Kirby. But there you go. This is Captain. Role playing stuff would be fun. I did when I first started out doing this. I was panicking over what to showcase all the time. I was like agonizing. Like, instead of just grabbing, I would look through comics every day when I came home. I would go through boxes and boxes and boxes of comics, and I should show this. No, I shouldn't show this. And it was taking like an hour just to decide what to showcase. And it became like work and a chore, and it wasn't fun. And let's face it, it's hard to build up a following. I wasn't getting any subscribers. I was getting like 6 views a video. So I was just like, I'm calling quits on this. And then I just decided, stop agonizing. And I would just, okay, I'm slightly interested. And that's what this is. This is my pile of stuff that I want to showcase. So, unless people request something, I just take the top comic off of this and showcase it. And what I do is I kind of research the comic over here and read a synopsis on my iPad, so I don't make too much of a fool out of myself. So now it's fun. But at that point, I would like, oh no, I don't have a video, and I would grab a role playing book and I'd show Dungeons and Dragons, and nobody was watching it. Nobody was watching it, so I stopped. I did like 3 days in a row showcasing the deities and demigods, and then the monster manual. But I didn't get any views. So if you're interested in that, look through my back catalog, put a comment on it, stuff like that, to remind me, and I'll showcase. I was showcasing the Art of D&D hardcover book, and I just stopped because nobody was watching it. So I only showed half that because I don't want to bore anybody. Just talk to the void. But anyway, what was I talking about? I was talking about Captain Atom. This is number 1. This was $1. And after they blow him to bits, the adventure begins. I got this. I knew Captain Atom was a Charlton hero at the time, and DC bought the catalog of all the Charlton heroes. That's like Blue Beetle, The Question, Captain Atom, Nightshade, and Peacemaker. And I knew he didn't look like this, and it kind of bothered me that they were disregarding all this past continuity. But Pat Broderick brought me in. I didn't know anything about Carrie Bates at the time. Pat Broderick was one of my favorite. He was one of my first famous comic book artists. I don't know if I said that correctly. He was one of my first favorite comic book artists because I got into the Captain Marvel series from DC, the 70s one, and of course I picked up the last 2 issues before it got canceled, and then they rolled it into Marvel Spotlight number 1 to finish the story, and it was Pat Broderick at the top of his game, drawing just these wonderful spacefaring superheroes. I loved it, and so I've been obsessed with getting those back issues of Captain Marvel, and that's when I learned about like guys like Jim Starlin and it was just everything. It showcased it debuted rather Gamora and Drax the Destroyer and all those cool. Actually, Drax the Destroyer is showcased in Iron Man, but it was written by Jim Starlin. And I digress. So we're talking about Captain. I was kind of annoyed because this doesn't look like Captain Atom that I already knew, but I was such a fan of Pat Broderick that I had to pick this up. Just look at that, and I gotta say, like, this is definitely George Perez inspired. Look at how cool that is. And George Perez is, just such an amazing talent. Here we got some M&Ms. And here we got the first page. Let's look at the indicia, because I do this all the time anyway. Whenever I read a comic book, copyright 1986. Yes, rest in peace, George. Yes, I met the man twice at conventions, and he was just the consummate professional, smiling, happy, just glad to. He signed my copy of Wonder Woman #1. I already had a copy, so I bought another copy just for him to autograph, and I was just like, this is great. I probably stumbled over, made a jerk out of myself, like, starstruck, but he was just such a gracious person. I met John Byrne in the same circumstances. He autographed, I think it was Fantastic Four 246, and he was just so unpleasant. I was a little kid, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe I did something wrong, but I was a little kid. And John Byrne was just so unpleasant. Whereas I was a little older when I met George Perez. He was just happy to be there, smiling. Everybody left with a smile on their face. Everybody. I remember everybody walking away from John Byrne like upset, like, whoa. Sebastian, hi everyone. I can't stay. Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you for stopping in, and thanks for the nice comment. That makes my day. Sometimes. I was disturbed that I was going to be talking and nobody could hear me. Like, you guys would hear like that robot voice. Everything would look staticky. So thank you guys for interacting with me. That this is great. I love this. All the panels. Just something about Pat. I guess I'm an easy person to predict. I like to pretend and think that I'm a complicated person, but like I like my comic book stuff like John Byrne, George Perez, and then look, this Pat Broderick. Now that I'm looking at it now, like. When one of the things I like about doing this channel is it kind of forces me to try to look at comic books objectively. Like, so even comic books that I have such affection for, like that Marvel 2-in-1 with the Thing and Thundra, I tried to remove my emotion and look at it objectively. And I'm doing that right now, and I realize the more comic books look like John Byrne, George Perez, the more I like it. So look at this. This Pat Broderick. Like, I know he's got his own style, but it kind of fits in that box of comic book art that I like. I mean, at least superhero stuff, because like there's like Love and Rockets, the Hernandez brothers. I absolutely love the Hernandez brothers, but I don't want the Hernandez. Well, you know what? I take that back. I was about to say I don't want the Hernandez brothers to do the Fantastic Four, but wouldn't that be cool for Jamie Hernandez to do like a Joe Matt Peepshow? It was like a bizarre little independent comic, and the guy could barely draw, but it worked for that particular comic. So yes, I do like other style art, but for my DC Marvel superhero stuff, this is the standard that I expect. So when I saw that like Squirrel Girl, oh my god, I was like revolted. And I see I don't get it anymore, but I see pictures online of like what they do with Robin. Oh man, that the art in those comics are like, when you're in 5th grade and your buddy draws really well and you're like, that's pretty cool. Okay. Thank you, Sebastian. Keep up the good. Yeah. Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you for the encouraging words. It does feel nice. Thank you so much. So, does anybody know what I'm talking about? Has anybody seen these like the new Robin with the way they're drawing? It just looks like I said, like your buddy in 5th grade who could draw really well, and you're like, well, keep it up. You're gonna be drawing, but he never got better. That I don't know. I guess it's the nature of the universe. Standards fall. So let's look at the credits over here. Carrie Bates. Again, this was it's storming out here, so maybe that's I couldn't change the date, but because I announced the date, but we're actually having like a rainstorm right now, so that might be affecting my internet. John Costanza, we just saw his name. Carl Gafford, colorist. Dennis O'Neill, editor. What do you want? And special thanks to Greg Weisman. Denny O'Neill. I talk about him every time his name comes up. Want me to pontificate about Denny O'Neill or just continue with the comic? You guys let me know. So what's going on? They found this strange metal, and this guy got convicted of treason. Of course, he's framed, and they put him inside the egg. They're going to detonate a bomb to see if this metal will protect human life from a bomb. And supposedly, if he goes along with this experiment, he'll be cleared. So they, boom, point of origin, they detonate the bomb. And I don't know the origin of the original Captain Atom. That's actually on my want list of comics to buy. And boom, the nuclear bomb, this metal reacts bizarrely. It changes, it fuses with him, Nathan Annual, and boom, and then he disappears. So now he's presumed dead. What it really did was it sent him like 20 years into the future, or 10 years into the future. I forget the exact number. So this is his daughter, grown up now. You know, so that he shows up. So it's kind of like Dr. Manhattan. You know, yeah, this is before Dr. Manhattan, right? So he reappears. He's this molten slag, and they're sending the Air Force to. They think it's an alien. He's reacted. Look at this glorious artwork. He's reacting the way he normally would to people attacking him, and he gets knocked out. Even though he's like Superman tier power, he doesn't know how to control his powers yet. So he gets knocked out. They're like, "What do we do with this guy?" He's freaking out, and he's starting to talk. And he's mutating and shedding mass and refining what he looks like to the point where he's Nathaniel Adam. The metal has fused with his skin. That's his origin. There you go. Anybody else want to ask questions, talk? I thought, I was hoping for more of like a question and answer. A movie version of this book. The problem is it would be made in 2020, so it would stink. I definitely think the Marvel movies are on the decline right now. And I thought Infinity War was the high point, and now they're on the down point. I don't know about you. I liked Infinity War. I did not like Endgame. I thought once they introduced multiverses and time travel as a get all to fix things, there's no consequences anymore. And now I hear the rumor that in Avengers Secret Wars, getting long in the tooth. What's that? What's getting long in the tooth? Superhero movies or time travel? I don't exactly. I hope you don't mean me. I'm getting long in the beard though. But I heard in Secret War, yes, Marvel MCU. Yes, I totally agree with you, War Duke. Yes. The phases. The more they stray from the source material, the less I like them. I'm an old fogey, and that's why I understand people who didn't like that Shadow comic. The more it strays from the source material, the less I like it. You're not Jack Kirby. You're not Stan Lee. You're not Len Wein. You're not Chris Claremont. You're not a genius. You're a committee. And the committee decided that Namor is going to be an Aztec warrior. Well, Bill Everett didn't make Namor an Aztec warrior. Who are you to override Bill Everett? That's arrogance. And I understand they wanted to differentiate him from Aquaman. But you know what? Why? Embrace the fact that he's from a culture that worships Neptune, and make him this, like, I don't know what he is, this arrogant, lost civilization that had ties to the Roman gods. Embrace it. That's just as cool. But no, for my representation purposes, they changed Bill Everett's creation. That's arrogant. Who are you? Who are you? What did you create that you could change somebody else's stuff? I just find that to be so arrogant. I don't know. But anyway, as I was saying, I heard rumors, and I don't know if this is true or not. Maybe you guys know more than me. That I heard that in the Avengers Secret Wars, Feige wants to have portals open up from all different realities and have anybody who's ever played a Marvel character show up. So, yeah, I agree with you, Abax. I agree with you. I was kind of like, who should play Namor? Johnny Depp. I can't stand Johnny Depp,
but he looks like Namor. Johnny Depp looks like he just looks like he's dirty all the time. Don't you think if Johnny I tell my wife that like if Johnny Depp came over for dinner, he would smell. He just looks like he smells. So, but they get to Johnny Depp, they clean him up, put him on an exercise, and how funny would that be? That Amber Heard is playing Aquaman's wife, and then Namor shows up, played by Johnny Depp, and then the movie just becomes a phenomenon. Come on, how come I'm thinking of these things and Kevin Feige's not? And and I'm going to work it and get my freaking hands crushed by an idiot truck driver. But all right, Abrax agrees with me. Abrax thinks I'm funny. Thank you. That's all it takes. One person. Just give me an attaboy once in a while. So anyway, and I know it. Back in the 80s, I remember. Maybe it was the 90s. Me and my friends were all hanging out one night. We're drinking beer, and we're adults, young adults. And we as we got drunk, we reverted into childhood, and we would talk about comic books. And we were like, wouldn't it be great if there was movies of, oh, man, Fantastic Four movie and Avengers movie? They'd be so good. This was before even the X-Men movie. Be careful what you wish for. Now I'm wishing that they would stop. But we were fan casting. Who would, the professor from Gilligan's Island as Reed Richards. He wanted Jackie Gleason to play the Thing. And then the thing that made us laugh, I still think about this, Marlon Brando as the Mole Man. And then we were talking about the audition process. I'll turn the pages. We were talking about the audition process of that, like, Marlon Brando, we want you to be in this Fantastic Four movie. Oh yeah. Who? What do you want me to play? The Mole Man. The Mole Man. What's the Mole Man? Oh, the Mole Man. He is a person who is so ugly and disgusting that he thought the only choice that he had was to either kill himself or go underground. And you thought of me? Yeah, you'd be perfect. I don't know. I think I'm insulted. No, and his agent's like, no, Marlon, play the Mole Man. You need a blockbuster hit. I think I need a new agent. I don't know. Maybe I don't think that's funny. Marlon Brando is the Mole Man. I think Christopher Walken should be Galactus. Jor-El to the more. Oh, what's his name? Jor-El, the fat guy who played Zeus in the Thor movie. What a shame, huh? We all love Gladiator. He was a cool guy, My wife was like, "Oh man, he's so handsome. He's so sexy." And now he's the fat joke in the Thor movie. What? Why can't I think of his name? I remember he was like what was that movie? Brando in Superman 78. Yeah. Yep. And it's funny, Brando and I saw an interview with Marlon Brando, and he was just like, "Why we casted a human as Jor-El? We should cast a suitcase that beeps because it's a space alien. We don't know." So can you imagine that? Just a suitcase with lights on it. Beep 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 beep. What makes me think Marlon Brando's out of his mind? Why can't I think of that name of the actor? But remember, what was it called? Multiplicity or whatever, his first movie? He was like the young hotness. Then he becomes Russell Crowe. And then he becomes a gladiator. Oh, man, he had the world at his fingertips, And then he was going around beating up everybody. Yes, Russell Crowe. And now he's the fat joke in a bad Marvel movie. Oh, God, how the mighty have fallen. So what's going on in this comic? The thing blowed up real good. He comes back. He's trapped in his armor. And then this is the original scientist that wanted to experiment. His body is decaying through some like multiple sclerosis kind of thing. And he's in like some sort of Stephen Hawking robot wheelchair. And he is the bad guy. Well, he thinks he's the good guy, but he's the scientist without morals that'll do like questionable things in the name of science. And they come up with a scheme to trick Nathaniel Adam into working for him, so that they're basically blackmailing him. And Wade Ealing, the bad guy, he's married to his ex-wife, and he's been raising his daughter, because that's the way comic books works. A little bit of soap opera, never hurt nobody. And they're poor Nathaniel, Captain Adam, is trying to be the good guy. He was promised a pardon, and now they have to keep it a secret because he's dead, and they can't change the records. And now he's got to work for this shady military organization, and this guy's gonna kill they think they're gonna kill him, but of course they inject him with his own thing, and they're blowing up. They're setting him in a space rocket now. They're testing him. They're using the poor guy. This comic, to me, I loved it, but I was very frustrated at the same time, because this guy, Captain Atom, he's on Superman level, like as far as strength and powers and everything like that. He's like Dr. Manhattan, and Dr. Manhattan was based on him, and he's supremely powerful, and he's being like psychologically blackmailed and tortured by this shadow conspiracy within the U.S. military, and he's just like being their lapdog until they give him permission to live his life. And here he is, he's flying down to check out his family, and he finds out that the man who blew him up is living his life, kind of like Spawn. That they use that trope for a reason, because it works. And it was just so frustrating, because I was rooting for him, man. I was rooting for him. It kind of like that show. My wife liked it. Why can't I think of it? Burn Notice. That spy was just trying to get free and out from everything, and every time he figured out one thing, it led to 10 other things, because they had to keep the premise going, and that's what killed the show. If you ask me, it got too. After a while, you're like, yeah, he's never gonna get free. What's the stake? Same thing happened to him. Although eventually he did get free and became his own person. But then they changed his personality. He became like the, because he's an old-fashioned pro-military, pro-American guy, he had to become like the fascist, because all the liberals in the comic book writing, they can't conceive of a good patriotic, conservative, good God-fearing guy being an actual good person, And that's why they keep messing up Superman, because that's what Superman is supposed to be. And that's why Superman's like kind of my favorite. I love the patriotic, all-American, good guy superhero. That's why I don't watch The Boys. I don't need to see nasty jerk superheroes. Enough of that. It's been there, done that. I lived through the 80s when they were deconstructing superheroes, or the 90s when they were deconstructing superheroes. I want to see Superman be a Boy Scout again. I like the idea of Captain Atom being a military superhero who's actually a good, like Uncle Sam from the Freedom Fighter. Yes, yeah, I like that trope, But of course, the Uncle Sam series that I read, he was doubting America because America was doing bad things and he was losing his power. Come on, just write good guy superheroes. It's not that tough. Fantastic Four is a family that likes to explore things, and eventually they stop bank robbers. It's not that tough. I hate when they make Sue Storm get mad and leave and go sleep with Submariner. Come on. Reed Richards is cool. He was a scientist. Back in the 60s when they made up Reed Richards, scientists were the coolest guys in the world. Everybody was into NASA, and everybody looked up to scientists were rock stars. And that's the Reed Richards that Stan Lee envisioned. He was a cool guy. The chicks dug him. He was Indiana Jones before he even got the ability to stretch. And then he became a superhero on top of it. And it was cool. Actually, the first 10 issues or so of the Fantastic Four were kind of rough because the personalities weren't developed. Sue had no personality. She was nothing. She was just a hostage. Reed was kind of an arrogant scientific jerk. Ben was on the verge of becoming a monster, and Johnny Storm was like, yay, I'm a teenager, and all teenagers are goofy, happy-go-lucky. And then I think Stan and Jack realized that they had not just a hit on their hand, but something very important, and they really poured their talent into the original. I'm talking about the Fantastic Four, looking at Captain Atom, but you follow my train of thought. They really made an important comic, and they made, I thought, one of the greatest runs that 103 issues of the Fantastic Four, Jack Kirby, Stan Lee are just, that to me is comic book 101. If you're into comics and you don't read the Jack Kirby, Stan Lee comic book, like you're really missing out. I don't want to insult anybody by calling you a name, but you're missing out. You really should read them. And especially if you write for Marvel or DC, you should read those comics. Matter of fact, I don't want to call it gatekeeping, but like if you want to be, I'm an electrician. If I want to become an electrician, I have to be trained. I have to take tests. I have to learn basic wiring. If you get hired for Marvel, first off, they shouldn't be recruiting people. People should be applying, and there should be a test. What happened in Fantastic 450? Who wrote this run? What happened in this run? Why was this important? Blah blah blah. There should be a test, and if you can't pass this test, you can't write for Marvel. You can't write for DC. You know, I'm sorry, but this these are important. These comic books are important, and and now they're just getting people that I want to make. I like Captain Atom because he's not me. That's not me. I don't have this body. I can't fly through the air. I can't shoot. And I also did lose my wife and child to horrific circumstances. I want to read about this guy overcoming these. He's got these great powers and he's overcoming these horrific things that I'm glad I never went through. I like him because he's not me. Now they're hiring people that want to turn everybody into them. Robin looks like a twerpy little jerk because that's who's writing Robin, a twerpy little jerk. I can't fly. I can't stop. I can't jump buildings with a single bound. You know what I mean? That's Superman. That's what we aspire to be. That's what I want superheroes to be. Something that we aspire to be. Not some, I don't know. Like, as much as I like Frank Miller and Alan Moore and stuff, but I think they did a lot of damage unwittingly because these two guys love comic books. And they were trying something that was new, different, and original, and wonderful at the time. But I don't think they understood the nuclear fallout of the bombs that they dropped. All right, I've been talking for an hour. My voice is kind of getting rough and sketchy, and I want to go up and eat some dinner because I go to bed at like 9:30 because I got to wake up at 4. So anybody want to ask anything? Anybody want to say anything before I sign out? I think at one point we had 10 people at the highest point, which is 9 more than I thought were going to show up. So I'm happy. This was fun. There you go. We'll do a couple of minutes of Q&A. And anybody want to ask something? Oh, there you go. Great job. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Oh, cool. Thank you. I don't think I'm knowledgeable. I just think I'm a weird guy that's been reading comic books for way too long. Well, I take that back. Nobody's reading comic books for way too long. I just like comics, and I like I said, I when COVID happened, things got really weird, and I had a group of friends, and they were like, I don't know what the hell's going on. I was living in the 5 boroughs of New York City. And it was like tumbleweeds were going down the street. I was going to work. I was one of the few people that never stopped working. I hate that term essential workers, because everybody's an essential worker to in their own world, right? I don't care. I don't want to demean anybody's job. If you're paying your bills, you're not asking for a handout, and you're supporting yourself, you are an essential worker, right? Right? So I never stopped working. I went to work every day. I was taking mass transit, and nobody was in. I was working in Manhattan, and Manhattan was a ghost town. I was joking. I took pictures. I got to find these pictures of Manhattan at 2:00. Nobody on the street. It was scary walking through Manhattan at 2:00 and nobody's. I thought like I was going to turn the corner, and I thought the Walking Dead were going to come out and get me. And all my friends. I'm kind of a social guy. My wife is very, very introverted. She says I'm an extrovert. I think I'm both, because I could enjoy sitting here by myself reading comic books for 5 days, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh geez, I haven't seen anybody in 5 days, and then I'll have like 4 days of people coming over and playing board games. So that's what I would do at my apartment. But then COVID happened, and nobody wanted to do anything. Everybody was like, come on over. Oh, we can't, COVID. I'm like, you can still come over. No. The government just says, who cares what the governor says? We're punk rockers. No, we're not. Omega Man. Yes, I agree with you. I don't know what you want to know, but I agree. Omega Man was great. So I ended up moving. If I was going to be trapped in a house with nobody coming, trapped in a crummy little apartment in Flushing, I might as well go out and buy. So I moved away from the city, more into the rural area, and I don't really know too many people here. The funny thing is I have 2 childhood friends very close to me, but I don't see them that much. So I started this channel to talk comic books, even if it was just to myself. So you requested Omega Man. I'll dig out some more Omega Man and showcase some Omega Man comics. I showcased issue number 1. Maybe I'll showcase like number 5 or 10 just to show what's going on. Here's stuff that I'm going to be showcasing in the future. Shanna the She-Devil. This was one of the 3 Marvel Comics. Ambush Bug. I do not have any Ambush Bug. That's Keith Giffen that I couldn't stand. it's funny. As the vast I got 53,000 comic books, and not one of them is an ambush bug comic book. This phasers, something like that. This guy wanted to be John Byrne, AC Comics. I don't know if I'll even showcase it. And then, of course, all the who's. I do them like every 4 or 5 videos. Oh, okay, Battleground Victory. Okay, I understand. I thought you would talk about, because I was talking about the Omega Men comic books earlier. Yes, that's a perfect description of what it was. It was kind of like I Am Legend, or the like you said, the Omega Man. I was just walking through Manhattan, and delis were closed. There was no coffee trucks on this. This is supposed to be Manhattan. People are paying. Yes, yes. The original one was with Charlton Heston, the Omega Man, and then I Am The original, it was based on the story I Am Legend, and then Charlton Heston did Omega Man, and then Will Smith did the remake, and now I think that they're actually in the process of making another one called I Am Legend, based like slavishly devoted to the book. That's it, the remake. I Am Legend. And I've only seen the Charlton Heston version, believe it or not, because I'm an old fogey. I got no time for remakes, unless I find out that the remake is really good. Like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers in the '70s is better than the Invasion of the Body Snatchers in the '50s, and the Thing, the John Carpenter's Thing, is better than the original Thing. Right, very similar to That's it. It was. I don't know where you're from, Battleground Victory, but that's what it was like. I was walking around in Manhattan. I was normally in Manhattan. I was working underground in a subway project, and for whatever the powers that be decided that my job was essential, because they wanted to get elected, and so I never went out of work. So to me, COVID wasn't really a big thing. Last Man on Earth, Vincent Price, really. Oh, thank you, Abra. I got to check that out. I'm a big Vincent Price fan. I'm a big Vincent Price fan. I've been on a Vincent Price kick lately, watching a lot of his movies that I haven't seen. Have you seen Dr. Phibes? Yes, The Thing by John Carpenter. I actually have a board game based on the story, Who Goes There. The Thing was based on a short story, Who Goes There, and I have a board game. And I haven't played it yet, but all the reviews are telling me that what happens is you're in the base in Antarctica, and you're all cooperating, and you want to destroy the monster. But the thing is, you got to draw cards every turn, and depending upon where you are and where the monster is how many cards you draw. And if you draw like a card with like a red dot on it, you are now the Thing. So once you become the Thing, you want to win by turning everybody into the Thing. So you want to infect every player. But if you're not the Thing, you want to win by killing off all the infected. So it breeds paranoia. I got to play this game now that I'm talking about it. I'm like, it's been sitting on my shelf. In the board gaming world, games that haven't been played, it's called your shelf of shame. So that game has been sitting on my shelf of shame now for like almost 2 years, and I can't wait to play it now that I'm talking about it. Oh, so I was getting back to COVID. So I told my wife, like, if we're gonna sit in this 1-bedroom apartment, we were saving up money for a house. I said, let's do it now. I'm going crazy. And then my wife was working from home, so I would get home and I would have to be quiet because she was still working. You don't mess with anybody's job, especially not your wife's. So I was miserable trying to have a board game night. All my friends were like, no, we can't go out. We can't go out. They're just sitting home being scared. I've been going out. I got COVID when it first happened. It wasn't that bad. We bought a house. We moved while I was on COVID, while I had COVID, moving, painting my basement, just doing work. It wasn't that bad. And I'm not taking away from people who suffered and died from COVID. I'm just saying for me, it wasn't that bad. So I wasn't that scared. I faced the worst. And now I fixed up my house. And now I'm talking about comic books with people on the internet because COVID really messed people up. I don't know what else to say. Maybe I'm talking too much. But these are other comics that I'll be showcasing sometime in the future. Rick Veitch talking about the Brat Pack, talking about sidekicks. Here's a comic. I'm probably not going to showcase it, but I could showcase a couple of pages. The very non-safe for work comic books about vampires who are basically like prostitutes by Howard Chaykin because he's a pervert. I wanted to showcase Lucifer, this is his first comic in a 4-issue series, but the story is so complicated. I got to reread this to talk about this because it's super complicated. Here's a comic. I don't know if anybody but me was a fan of this comic. I was really bummed when they canceled this. This is the Gotham police force in Gotham dealing with Batman. And hint, they don't like Batman. They think he's a showboat that interferes in their investigations. These are the detectives. One of the things I did like was Commissioner Gordon was told he can't. Yes, you remember that one? Yes, yeah, Black Kiss. And then they brought it back. And I don't know how they tried to cancel Howard Chaykin. I don't remember why. But why? what good is that? But one thing I liked about this comic was the police union told how Commissioner Gordon, if you turn on that bat symbol, there's going to be lawsuits. So he hired a secretary, and he in this comic, he's telling the secretary, it's a little dark in here. Maybe we need some light. And that she would go upstairs, and she would turn on the bat signal because she wasn't part of the police union, so they couldn't do it. I just like little things like that. Here's a comic book that Bill Willingham, The Pantheon. This was a little. Yes. If you got the omnibus of Gotham City comic, get it. It is, and that's another Game of Thrones stuff because a lot of the cops, they would build them up. You get to like them to see that they ended up getting killed by like the Riddler. Like when the Riddler would or Joker would do his venom. Who's getting killed? The Gotham City cops. Who's getting the glory? Batman. And from the perspective of the Gotham City police force, you could understand why they didn't like Batman. They loved Superman, but didn't like Batman. This is a little known comic by Bill Willingham that Bill Willingham and Leak did the artwork for a while, and then after like 3 or 4 issues, they switched it to an inferior art team. But it was written by Bill Willingham. What a great comic! But I was really annoyed that they switched the art. I want to showcase this Warren Ellis, another guy who is canceled. I'll talk about the controversy of Warren Ellis when I talk about this comic. Maybe I'll bump this to the front. Amazing art. This is one of my favorite comic books of all time. Cannot recommend this one. I bought the hardcover collected edition of all of these. Guys, I'll talk about this when I showcase it. I talk about this a lot. I talked about this when I showcased that Lady Alchemy. But I think I'm going to end. I've been talking for well over an hour now. My throat's starting to hurt. I'm hungry, and I got to eat something before going to bed. Still drinking coffee. It's 8:51. I'll stop at 8:55 because I can't end on an odd number because I'm a freak. Good. Thank you, War Duke. Thank you so much for commenting and everything. You really. I was really nervous about who wants to be embarrassed. I thought I was going to do this and I was just going to talk about talk to myself. Here's Justice League 200. 200. Look at this beautiful George Perez. This is just great. This was before my time as a DC collector. So I walked into a comic book store and he had from 150 to 250 of Justice League, just one copy in a row, really nice condition. And I said, how much for all of them? And he gave me a price, and I was like, nah, I want all of them or I want nothing. Make it worthwhile. And we haggled, and I bought. So I got from 150 to 250 of Justice League. And I didn't read them yet. Why? Because I made the stupid mistake of going into when I moved into this house, I told my wife, if only there was a comic book store and a game store within walking distance, this would be perfect. My wife is a wonderful person. She Googled, boom, there's a comic book store and a game store within walking distance. I lucked out. I didn't know that when I bought the house. So I went to the comic book store. They had Justice League 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Excellent condition. They were $25 each. And then there was it just happened to be a 50% sale that day. Boom. So I bought them all. So now I can't read these because I got 5, 6 to 10, read them. Now I got to get 11 to 150 before I could read these because I'm out of my mind. But there you go. Is another one I'll be showcasing soon. Just wonderful artwork. Alex Ross. This is just wonderful. And here's told you I've been getting into Westerns, and this is the reason I'm getting into Westerns because I bought this, Justin Gray, Jimmy Palmiotti. I'm funny, thank you. My wife thinks I'm insane, but yes. This was a phenomenal series. Some covers by Moritat, I think is the name of the artist. This was a phenomenal series. I really, really really thought this was great. I mean, when this came out, I was watching the show Deadwood on HBO. My father always liked cowboys, so I don't know how I missed all these Western comics, but I'm making up for lost time. I guess I'm giving away too much, but these are future showcases. Ex Machina by Brian Vaughan. Now, check out West of Sundown, a current book. Okay, I don't know anything about that. I'll check that out. West of Sundown. West of Sundown. Do you know what company produces that? Divine Right. You know, Jim Lee, I know this is blasphemy, but I'm Vault Comics. Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you. I never heard of it. West of Sundown. Here's some comic book blasphemy. I'm not a big Jim Lee fan. I appreciate. I think he is a genius at what he does. What does he do? He does comic book art. His art is perfect for comic books, but for whatever reason, it doesn't work for me. I don't know why. It just doesn't strike me on an emotional level, but in an intellectual level, he is a master comic book artist. He's in the top tier comic book artist. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't work for me. Here we go back to some Jack Kirby, Demon. Here's another lesser known comic book series. I thought this was great. Kronos. He's kind of like a villain turned hero. So he's not really a good guy. He's not really a bad guy, and he's using time travel to like fix problems. I thought it was a good series. And then, as much as I don't like to talk about comics that I don't particularly like, I thought this would have been something I should showcase. I guess I waited too long. I should have showcased this a while ago. But there you go. And here, I think this is the oldest comic in my collection. And I'm just showcasing this. I was gonna wait for my father's birthday because he liked Daredevil. And there you go. I guess I'll end it now. It's 8:55. Unless anybody wants to ask questions, I'm gonna thank everybody for showing up. I know this isn't like, I don't know. I'm still a tiny channel. I can't believe I got 300 subscribers. I want to do a live chat. I don't know what else to say now. Now I'm floundering after talking for a while. But should I leave you with the images of my black and blue hand? Swollen thumb. It's gross. Thanks a lot, guys. I got a cool announcement that it's too soon to announce. So I will just tease that I got a cool announcement for something that's pretty cool. Don't get your hopes. It's not like super great, but it got me excited. Cliffhanger. There you go. I guess always leave them wanting more. So I'll stop right here before I talk myself out of it and tell you exactly what happened. But somebody reached out to me, and I'm really excited, but I don't think it's not for me to talk about as of yet. I'll just leave it at that. I'm pretty good about not giving away information that doesn't belong to me. I like to think that I hear secrets every day at work, and I don't tell anybody else because it's not my information to tell. So there you go. I'll leave it at that. All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for showing up. I'll do these regularly if people want. It was more fun than I thought. Thank you guys for showing up, and this will be tomorrow's. It'll take a while to process, so this will go up tomorrow in place of my normal videos. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. Please request some comics. Request whatever you guys want. I'm flexible. We're all comic book fans, and if you aren't interested in my personal role-playing notes, let me know in the comments section. And I know War Duke said yes, so if you're interested in that, I'll dig them out and I'll clean up some stuff so you can actually make sense of it, and I'll talk about that. Why not? That it's all inspired by comic books, so I do consider that comic book related. All right, thanks a lot, guys. This was fun. I'll see you guys tomorrow with another video. Now I got to figure out how to turn this off. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.